So where would you take these crimes? If you find that the Geneva Convention is being violated, if you find that genocide is occurring, if you find that the Hague Convention, any of these things are occurring, where would you go? The first, it can happen in these four places, the ICJ. So we have a first step that was taken, I think only 2 weeks ago by the ICJ, and a decision came out yesterday. We'll discuss that. Then we have the International Criminal Court, which is open an investigation into Russia. Then we have ad hoc UN courts, such as the ICTY, the Yugoslav Tribunal, the Rwanda Tribunal, and then you have the option, which is being pushed by a number of academics and is being pushed a lot by the United Kingdom, an independent Nuremberg-like court, the ICJ. So the ICJ has historically takes enormous time to review something and to make a decision. And what is happening in this filing by Ukraine has literally changed history. The ICJ was basically considered like the Vatican, like you go in with a question on morality, and 150 years later, you get a decision. This is so much history is being made right now in front of us. On I think February 28th, the Ukraine filed a request for the ICJ to review Russia's classification of the acts in Crimea and Donbass region as genocide. And Ukraine stated that the reason that Russia has come into Ukraine is because they're alleging genocide. So they wanted the ICJ to state that genocide was not occurring and that genocide is not a reason for any incursion onto their territory. And finally, their request was that they had a number of requests, but the one that passed was that that Russia stop immediately its involvement in Ukraine and that the parties stop fighting. The decision is very interesting. It was unanimously passed. There are two dissenting opinions, one by the Russian, I think he's the vice president, Grigoriev, and one by the Chinese judge. So not surprising. But the Russians, very interestingly, I don't know how much of you are aware of a writer and analyst in the United States of Russian origin, Masha Gessen. She has from the start been saying that a lot of what Russia is hooked on is on NATO's actions in Kosovo, and that all of this sort of anger against NATO stems from this. In fact, the Russian judge mentions as one of his significant points for dissenting that the ICJ was not allowed to review the NATO actions in Serbia. So that's very interesting that's again being pulled up. But the final decision by the ICJ, and they did not review whether genocide occurred or not. They did not think that that was relevant. They based their decision on the fact that Russia should not have started an attack unilaterally, that Russia should have gone to the Security Council and presented it and gotten Security Council approval. So based on that violation, there was no reason that there was no legal authority for whether genocide was occurring or not. There was no legal authority for Russia to enter. So they ruled by a 13-2 vote that Moscow must ensure that any military or regular armed units which may be directed or supported by it, as well as any organization or persons which may be subject to its control or direction, take no steps in furtherance of the military operations referred to in point. So they made a decision that Russia has to stop this immediately. This is binding. I think I had a question about whether it's possible to enforce this. It is possible for this to be bounced back to the UN, as the ICJ is a court of the UN, and for peacekeeping operations to open some sort of, that's the only military authority that they have to do a peacekeeping operation. So other than that, there is not much that the states can do. And of course, Russia is on the Security Council, so that will not happen. Again, the ICJ decision is only for the state responsibility. It cannot look whether a leader or a military official is responsible. That is not within their jurisdiction. And there's this decision. They say specifically that their decision now doesn't bias them from looking at issues in the Ukraine and between Ukraine and Russia in the future. Ukraine also asked for financial retribution, and they did not rule on that. They did not give Ukraine that. So that can be brought up later in the future. So February 28th, 2022, prosecutor Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, opens an investigation into Russia for war crimes. How did this happen? Neither Russia nor Ukraine are signatories to the Rome Statute. However, in 2014, the Ukraine invited the ICC to investigate the actions of Russia on its territory. The ICC sat on that. They sat on the Georgia investigation and the Ukraine investigation, which numerous lawyers, numerous individuals, legal authorities in Ukraine, in Georgia found to be disgusting and upsetting. They sat on this and made no decisions and didn't proceed. But now that this action has happened, they're using the 2014 investigation to enter and to use that as a basis of jurisdiction. So by the Ukraine inviting in 2014, the ICC is stating that they have de facto accepted the ICC's jurisdiction on its territory. Further, a non-signatory state can be referred to the ICC by member countries. In the case of Ukraine, 39 International Criminal Court member states referred the conflict to the Ukraine to the ICC. So sort of two bases for the ICC investigating. Investigators are on the ground. What I've heard is that they're not in Ukraine, they're in Poland. They're working and interviewing people coming in on the border. The ICC cannot charge a non-signatory nation with crime of aggression. So they could be charged with violations of Geneva Convention, Hague Convention, customary international law, but they cannot be charged with the crime of aggression. An ad hoc court, this will not happen. There is no way. First of all, the only way that the Yugoslav Tribunal and all of the other UN ad hoc courts are established are by a resolution of the Security Council. As long as Russia's on the Security Council, this will not happen. This is the reason why there is no ad hoc investigating Syria, because Russia and China blocked it. So that's not going to happen. Independent court. So there's a call by legal experts and NGOs to create an independent court in the model of Nuremberg to prosecute the crimes in Ukraine. This would allow for the prosecution of the crime of aggression. That's the main reason they want to have this independent court, because it will allow the crime of aggression to be prosecuted. While the ICC can and should investigate war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide committed by all parties in Ukraine, under current circumstances, it cannot investigate the alleged crime of aggression. The International Court of Justice and European Court of Human Rights may have roles to play in Ukraine, but also cannot hold individuals accountable for the crime of aggression. So a new international or hybrid tribunal mandated to investigate and prosecute the alleged crime of aggression in Ukraine could address this gap. There are various precedents to draw on for setting up such a tribunal, which could be complementary to other proceedings. So they're not saying this would be the only place. Both the ICC, there would still be a place for ICC, there would still be a place for universal jurisdiction. I did not put that in, but universal jurisdiction is also happening. Germany has opened an investigation into Russia and into the actions in Ukraine. This is beginning now, and if they have any individuals that they can charge with that, they will begin a case. They could also begin it in absentia. So it's